The divorce papers sat on my mahogany desk like a death sentence. And in a way, they were. I'm Adrian Cross, 28 years old. And until 3 hours ago, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. I had built Cross Industries from a small tech startup into a billion-dollar empire before I turned 25. I had penthouses in 3 countries, cars that cost more than most people's houses, and a wife who I believed was my soulmate. Star. Even her name felt like poetry when I first heard it 2 years ago at that charity gala. She was standing alone by the balcony, her blonde hair catching the moonlight, wearing a simple white dress that somehow outshone every diamond in the room, while other women threw themselves at me, the youngest billionaire in the city. She barely looked my way. That's what made me fall. I pursued her for 3 months. She was a kindergarten teacher, living in a modest apartment, driving a beat-up Honda. She said she didn't want my money, didn't care about my status. She wanted to get to know me, just Adrian, not Adrian Cross, CEO. It was intoxicating. We married 6 months later in a small ceremony. Against my lawyer's advice, I didn't ask for a prenup. Love doesn't need contracts, I'd said. My attorney, Frederick, had looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Now, sitting in my office at midnight, I read the document again, my hands trembling. Petitioner Star Cross requests dissolution of marriage and equitable distribution of assets acquired during marriage, including but not limited to the Riverside Estate 47 million, the Manhattan Penthus 47 million, the Manhattan Penthus 23 million, Cross Industries shares 40%, the art collection $12 million, closing parenthesis ... The list went on and on and on. My phone buzzed. A message from Star. Signed them, Adrian. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. No explanation. No apology. Just cold, calculated words from the woman who whispered I love you. This morning before I left for work, I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. Star, what the hell is this? What's going on? Her laugh was light, almost musical. Oh, Adrian. Sweet, naive Adrian. Did you really think a kindergarten teacher would fall in love with you? The real you? My blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I've been planning this since the moment I saw you at that gala. Do you know how easy you were? All I had to do was pretend I didn't care about money, and you ate it up. You're so desperate to be loved for who you are, and not what you have, that you became blind. That's not. We had 2 years together. Star, we built a life. You built a life. I built a case. Every gift you gave me, every property you put in joint ownership, every sweet nothing you whispered, it all led to this moment. And the best part? It's all legal. You gave me everything willingly. I couldn't breathe. Why? Because I can. Because men like you think you can have everything: money, power, love. Someone needed to teach you that there's always a price. Sign the papers, Adrian. My lawyer says if you fight this, I'll take even more. She hung up. I sat there in the darkness of my office, the city lights blurring through my tears. This couldn't be real. This had to be some cruel nightmare. But the papers on my desk were very, very real. The next morning, I called Frederick into my office. He arrived with a grim expression, a thick folder under his arm. "Tell me there's a way out of this," I said, not bothering with pleasantries. Frederick sat down heavily. "Adrian, I warned you about the prenup. I know what you warned me about. I need solutions, not I told you SOS." He opened the folder, spreading documents across my desk. "I've been investigating since you called me last night. It's bad, Adrian. Really bad." "How bad?" Star's real name is Stella Hartwig. "She's done this before." My stomach dropped. "What? 3 times? Always wealthy men. Always the same pattern. She plays the humble, disinterested woman, makes them fall in love, marries without a prenup, then files for divorce within 2 years. Her take from the previous 3 marriages, approximately $85 million combined. I felt sick. How did I not know this? She changes her appearance, her backstory. She's smart, Adrian. Very smart. She had fake references for the teaching job, a manufactured past. The apartment you thought she lived in, rented for show. The beat-up Honda, also rented. The charity gala where we met ... She researched you, knew you'd be there, knew your patterns, your weaknesses. She's a professional. I stood up, walking to the window. My empire, everything I built, was about to be cut in half because I believed in love. "We can fight this," Frederick continued, "but it'll be ugly, expensive, and based on the assets you voluntarily put in joint ownership during the marriage. She has legal ground. How much will I lose? If we go to court and lose, could be 60% of everything. If we settle now, maybe we can negotiate down to 30%. 30% of $1 billion. $300 million gone. Because I fell in love with a ghost. Over the next 2 weeks, I barely slept. Star's lawyer sent daily messages, each more threatening than the last. My company's stock started to dip as rumors of the divorce spread. Business partners called, concerned. My mother called from Italy, heartbroken. But the worst part? I still loved her. Or at least, I loved who I thought she was. One night, I found myself outside the penthouse we'd shared. I still had the key, though she'd moved out to the riverside estate. I walked through rooms filled with memories. The kitchen where we cooked together. The bedroom where she'd held me after my father died. All of it, performance art. I found a box in the closet, hidden behind her shoe rack. Inside were notebooks, detailed plans, timelines, research on me, notes about my habits, my weaknesses, calculated moments of affection. There was even a checklist. Week 3, mention dead childhood pet, build sympathy. Month 2, introduce independence theme, refuse expensive gifts. Month 5, first I love you after he mentions marriage. Every moment of our relationship had been choreographed. I took the notebooks. They might not hold up in court, but I needed them. I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't my fault. 3 weeks after receiving the divorce papers, I hit rock bottom. I'd lost 15 pounds. My board was threatening to vote me out if I didn't get my personal life under control, and Star's lawyer had just sent papers demanding 50% of my assets or they'd go public with a fabricated story about emotional abuse. I was going to lose everything. That's when I met her, not Star, the real her, the one who would change everything. I was at a coffee shop at 6 a.m., one I'd never been to before, in a neighborhood far from my usual haunts. I needed to be somewhere no one knew my name. No one knew my face. No one wanted anything from me. The place was nearly empty. I ordered black coffee and sat in the corner, staring at nothing. Rough morning. I looked up. A woman stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee. She was beautiful, but not in the calculated way Star had been. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wore glasses and an oversized sweater, and her smile was tentative, kind. You could say that. I muttered. I'm going to do something weird, and you can absolutely tell me to leave, she said. But you look like you could use a friend. And I accidentally ordered 2 coffees. Long story, involving a confusing menu and a language barrier. So can I sit? I should have said no. I should have learned my lesson about beautiful women who appeared out of nowhere. But there was something different about her, something genuine in her eyes. Sure, I heard myself say. She sat down, pushing one of the coffees toward me. I'm Maya, Adrian. Nice to meet you, Adrian. So, what brings you to this corner of the world? Looking like your dog died and your house burned down simultaneously? Despite everything, I almost smiled. Is it that obvious? You're wearing a 5,000 Sutina. 5,000 Sutina to coffee shop at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, staring into space like you're contemplating the meaning of existence. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. How do you know my suit costs $5,000? She shrugged. My father was a tailor. I know fabrics. She paused. Also, you're Adrian Cross. Your face is on half the business magazines in the airport. My guard went up immediately. If you're looking for, relax, billionaire boy. I'm not after your money. I'm a doctoral student in psychology with $200,000 in student debt. I couldn't afford a lawyer if I wanted to take you for anything. She sipped her coffee. Plus, I have this weird thing where I'm actually like working for my money. There was something refreshing about her directness. No games, no pretense. Psychology? I asked. Behavioral psychology, specifically. I study why people make terrible decisions despite knowing better. She gave me a pointed look. You know, like marrying someone without a prenup. I froze. How did you? It's all over the news, Adrian. Well, not mainstream news, but financial news. Tech billionaire's marriage crumbles. Assets at risk. Catchy headline. I stood up to leave. This was a mistake. Wait, she said quickly. I'm sorry. That was insensitive. Please sit. I promise I'll stop being an asshole. Something in her voice made me pause. It wasn't manipulation. It was genuine regret. I sat back down slowly. Look, Maya said, her voice softer. I don't know your story, and you don't owe me an explanation. But I do know what it's like to feel like the world's biggest idiot because you trusted the wrong person. Yeah, she nodded. My ex-fiance proposed to me, big romantic gesture, the whole thing. 2 weeks before the wedding, I found out he'd been sleeping with my sister for 6 months. They're married now, actually. Just had a baby. Christ, I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me that sometimes people are just shitty, and it's not your fault for not seeing it coming. Sometimes people are really good liars. She looked at me directly, and sometimes we survive anyway. We sat there in silence for a moment. Then she checked her watch and stood up. I have to get to campus, but Adrian, whatever you're going through, you'll get through it. You seem like the type who doesn't give up easily. She pulled out a napkin and scribbled something on it. That's my number. If you ever need someone to talk to who isn't after your money, your company, or your assets, call me. Or don't. Either way, good luck. She left before I could respond. I looked at the napkin. Below her number, she'd written, P.S. Get a better lawyer. I didn't call Maya for 3 days. I was too proud, too broken, too afraid of trusting anyone new. But on the 4th day, after another threatening email from Star's lawyer, after another sleepless night, I found myself dialing her number. She answered on the 3rd ring. Adrian Cross. I was wondering if you'd call. How did you know it was me? Because normal people text first. Rich people call. It's a weird power thing you all have. Again, that directness, that honesty. It was like fresh air after being trapped in a room of smoke and mirrors. You said I should get a better lawyer. I said, did you mean that? Or were you just being nice? I'm never just nice. Meet me at the same coffee shop in an hour. She hung up. When I arrived, Maya was already there. A laptop and several thick folders spread across the table. Sit, she said, not looking up. I did some research. Research? On your wife? Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. Did you know she's done this before? My lawyer found 2 other cases. 3. Maya interrupted. Your lawyer missed one. Plus, I found something else. She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was a photograph of Star or Stella, or whatever her real name was, with a man. They were kissing on a yacht. This was taken 2 weeks ago. Maya said, while you were still married. I stared at the image, feeling nothing. I was beyond hurt at this point. Who is he? His name is Derek Castellano. Real estate mogul, 53, divorced twice, worth about $800 million. The pieces clicked into place. She's already moved on to her next mark. Not just moved on. According to my sources, they've been together for 4 months. Since before she filed for divorce. How did you get all this? Maya smiled. I have friends in low places. Journalists, private investigators, hackers, don't worry. The legal kind. Let's just say the psychology. Doctoral students don't mess around when it comes to research. Why are you helping me? She closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Because I believe in justice. And because what she's doing isn't just stealing. Money, she's stealing trust, hope, the ability to love again. That's worth fighting. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt determination. What do I do? First, you don't sign those papers. Second, you hire the lawyer. I'm about to recommend. She's a shark who specializes in fraud cases. Third, we build a case that proves your wife married you under false pretenses with the intent to defraud. It's called civil fraud, and if we can prove it, not only does she get nothing, but she might face criminal charges. That's Possible. It's a long shot. But Adrian, you have something the other men didn't. You have notebooks with her plans. You have me willing to testify about patterns of behavior. And you have evidence of her current affair, which proves her lack of genuine intent in the marriage. Hope was a dangerous thing, but I felt it anyway. Who's the lawyer? Her name is Victoria Abraham. She's in New York, but she take your case. I already called her. You already, Maya. You barely know me. I know enough. Also, full disclosure, I really hate con artists. They're a fascinating psychological case study, but they're also parasites who ruin lives. So, are you in, or are you going to roll over and let her win? I stood up and extended my hand. I'm in. She shook it firmly. Good. Now let's destroy her. Victoria Abraham was everything Maya promised, and more. Within 1 day of taking my case, she'd filed countermotions, frozen joint assets, and sent Star's lawyer a message that we weren't backing down. The response was immediate. Star called me directly for the first time since the divorce papers. What the hell are you doing, Adrian? Fighting back. You can't win. I have rights to those assets. Assets you acquired through fraud. Did you think I wouldn't find out about Derek? About your real identity? About the other men you've destroyed? Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, you can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I have your notebooks, Star. All of them. Every calculated moment, every fake tear, every manipulation documented in your own handwriting. Her voice turned cold. Those are private. You stole them from my own home, where we lived together, where you lied to me every single day for 2 years. I took a breath. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop the divorce petition and walk away with nothing. Or I'm going to take everything I have to court, expose you for who you really are, and press criminal charges for fraud. You're bluffing. Try me. She hung up. 2 days later, her lawyer called Victoria. They wanted to negotiate. Maya came with me to the meeting. I'd insisted. She'd become more than just a helpful stranger. She was becoming a friend. Maybe more than a friend, though neither of us had acknowledged it yet. Star was there with her lawyer, a slick man in his 60s who looked like he ate nails for breakfast. Across the table, Victoria sat with the calm confidence of someone holding all the cards. My client is willing to settle this quietly, Star's lawyer began. She reduced her demands to 20% of assets and sign a non-disclosure agreement. Victoria didn't even blink. Your client will receive 0% of assets. We'll sign a document admitting to fraud, and will repay Mr. Cross for all expenses incurred during the marriage. Additionally, she agreed to never contact him or anyone in his family again. That's absurd. The alternative is criminal prosecution and civil suits that will not only leave her with nothing, but will also result in prison time. Her previous victims are already being contacted. I believe a class action lawsuit is being discussed. I watched Star's face. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw fear in her eyes. You can't do this, she said, looking at me directly. Adrian, please, we had something real. Stop, I said quietly. Just stop. I've read your notes. I know every moment was calculated. You don't get to rewrite history now. Her mask slipped completely. The sweet, loving star disappeared, replaced by someone cold and calculating. Find you win. I'll sign whatever you want. And Derek, Victoria asked casually, will you be moving on to him now? Or have you already bled him dry? Star's lawyer stood up. This meeting is over. Sit down, Victoria said sharply. We're not done. Your client will also agree to therapy and will register with a database we're creating for marriage fraud cases. If she attempts this again with anyone, they'll be warned. You can't force. We can, and we will. Or we go to court. Your choice. 3 hours later, Star signed everything. She walked out of that conference room with nothing but the clothes she'd bought with my money. As the door closed behind her, I felt empty. Not victorious, not relieved, just empty. You okay? Maya asked softly, her hand on my arm. I don't know. You will be. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Star Stella, whatever her name was, disappeared from my life completely. I heard through the grapevine that Derek had dumped her once he found out about her past. She'd lost everything. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt tired. My company recovered. My board stopped threatening to remove me. My mother stopped calling every day in tears. Life returned to normal, except nothing felt normal. Maya and I had continued meeting at the coffee shop. It became our routine. She'd work on her dissertation while I handled emails, and we'd talk about everything and nothing. She told me about her research, her dreams of opening a practice one day. I told her about the company, about my father who died too young, about the pressure of being successful so young. She never treated me like Adrian Cross, billionaire. She treated me like Adrian, the guy who liked terrible action movies and burned grilled cheese sandwiches and had a secret addiction to reality TV. One morning, 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I arrived at the coffee shop to find her already there. But she wasn't working. She was just sitting, staring out the window. Hey, I said, sliding into my usual seat. Everything okay? She turned to look at me, and I was startled to see tears in her eyes. Maya, what's wrong? I'm pregnant, she said quietly. The world stopped. It's not yours, she added quickly, reading my expression. Remember that ex-fiancé I mentioned? Before the wedding fell apart, before I found out about my sister ... We were together one last time. A goodbye that I didn't know was goodbye. She wiped her eyes angrily. I just found out this morning. I'm 8 weeks along. I didn't know what to say. We'd never crossed the line from friendship to something more, though I'd thought about it, dreamed about it. But I'd been too broken, too afraid. Does he know? I asked finally. No, and he's not going to. He made his choice when he married my sister. This baby is mine. Maya, I'm keeping it. Adrian, I know it's insane. I'm broke. I'm still in school. I have no business being a mother right now, but I can't. I can't not keep it. I reached across the table and took her hand. Then you'll keep it, and you won't be alone. She looked at me, confused. What do you mean? I mean, you've been there for me through the worst time of my life. You expected nothing, wanted nothing, just helped because you could. Let me return the favor. Adrian, I'm not your responsibility. I know that, but you're my friend, and friends help each other. I squeezed her hand. Let me help, please. She studied my face for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. The next 6 months changed everything. I helped Maya move into a better apartment, nothing to fancy. Because she insisted on paying me back eventually. I went with her to doctor's appointments when she needed someone to drive her home. I helped paint the nursery and assembled more baby furniture than I ever thought existed. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, somewhere between midnight runs for pickles and ice cream and holding her hair back during morning sickness, I fell in love with her. Not the dramatic, sweep you off your feet love I felt with Star. This was different, quieter, deeper, real. I loved the way she sang off-key to her growing belly. I loved how she refused to let me do everything, insisting on maintaining her independence even when she could barely see her feet. I loved her strength, her humor, her fierce determination to be a good mother despite the circumstances. And I loved that she never expected anything from me, never assumed, never manipulated. One night, 2 weeks before her due date, we were sitting in her apartment watching a movie. She'd fallen asleep against my shoulder, her hand resting on her belly. I felt the baby kick against my arm, and something inside me shifted. This could be my life. This could be my family, not by biology, but by choice. Maya stirred, blinking up at me sleepily. Sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep. Don't apologize, I said softly. Maya, I need to tell you something. She sat up, suddenly more alert. Okay, ... double quotes. I'm in love with you. She stared at me. Adrian, I know the timing is terrible. I know you're about to have a baby, and I know I'm probably insane. But I can't keep pretending that I'm just your friend helping out. I'm in love with you. I love your strength and your stubbornness and the way you make me laugh. I love that you see me as just Adrian, not Adrian Cross. And I love that baby already, even though it's not mine, because it's part of you. Tears were streaming down her face. You can't mean that. I do. I know you might not feel the same way, and that's okay. I just needed you to know. If you want me to leave, I will. But if you'll let me, I want to be here. I want to be here for both of you. Not as a friend, as more. She was silent for so long I thought I'd ruined everything. Then she took my hand and placed it on her belly. I'm a mess, Adrian. I'm about to be a single mother with no money and a mountain of debt. I'm terrified every single day that I'm going to screw this up. I have trust issues and baggage and I'm a billionaire who got conned out of half his fortune because he was too desperate to be loved. We're both disasters. I smiled. But maybe we can be disasters together. She laughed through her tears. This is crazy. I know. I'm in love with you too, she whispered. I have been for months. But I was too afraid to say anything because I thought you were just being kind. After everything with Star, I didn't want to be another person taking advantage of you. I kissed her then, soft and gentle, and it felt like coming home. I want to do this right, I said when we pulled apart. I want to date you, court you, whatever the proper term is. I want to be there when the baby's born, and I want to be a father to them if you let me. And eventually, when the time is right, I want to marry you, with a prenup this time, because I learned my lesson. She laughed. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I mean it, Maya. I know you do. That's what makes it perfect. 2 weeks later, at 3:47 a.m., I sat in a hospital room holding a tiny baby girl with dark hair and her mother's eyes. Maya was sleeping, exhausted after 12 hours of labor, and I was too in awe to even think about rest. "Hi, Emma," I whispered to the baby. That's what Maya had chosen to name her. Emma rose. "I'm Adrian. I'm not your biological father, but I'm going to love you like I am. I promise you that." Emma yawned, her tiny fingers wrapping around my pinky. Maya stirred in the bed. "Is she okay?" "She's perfect. You're both perfect." She smiled sleepily. "Come here." I carefully placed Emma in her bassinet and climbed into the hospital bed next to Maya, wrapping my arms around her. "We're family now," she murmured. "The three of us." "Yeah," I said, kissing her forehead. "We are." 3 years ago, I thought I'd found love. What I'd actually found was a carefully constructed illusion designed to destroy me. But from that destruction, I'd found something real, something worth more than any amount of money or property or assets. I'd found Maya. I'd found Emma. I'd found a life I didn't know I wanted until it was right in front of me. 6 months later, I proposed on a random Tuesday in our favorite coffee shop at 6 a.m. when it was just the two of us and a sleepy barista. No grand gestures, no elaborate plans, just me on one knee, with a ring and a heart full of hope. She said yes. We got married in a small ceremony with a bulletproof prenup that Maya insisted on. "I never want you to wonder," she'd said. "I never want you to doubt why I'm here." But I never doubted, not once. Because real love doesn't need convincing. It doesn't need performance or manipulation. It just is. Star took half my money, but she gave me something invaluable in return. She taught me the difference between a beautiful lie and an imperfect truth. And I chose truth every single time. As I stood at the altar, watching Maya walk toward me with Emma in her arms and tears in her eyes, I realized something. I'd never been luckier than I was in that moment. Not when I made my first million. Not when I built my empire. Not when I thought I had everything. I was luckiest now, with nothing to prove and everything to give. This was my real beginning. This was my actual fortune, and I was never letting it go.
Sometimes, love at second sight is even better than love at first. This is the story of Adrian Cross, who learned that true wealth isn't measured in billions, but in moments of genuine connection. In the laughter of a child who calls you daddy even though you share no blood. And in the arms of a woman who loves you not despite your flaws, but because you showed her your truth. In the end, he lost half his fortune to a con artist, but he gained a family, a purpose, and a love that no one could ever take away. And that made him the richest man alive. If you watched this far, don't hesitate to drop a comment, like, subscribe, and share. Bye.
While other women threw themselves at me, she barely looked my way. That's what made me fall. I pursued her for 3 months.